Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Nelson Bulmash, the host of Health Matters on the UI Media Network. I have a very dear and special friend of mine. She is the author of Connection, the Currency to Happiness, Linda Duong. Welcome to the show. I want to show your book here. I love your book so much, and I want to talk about it and many other things. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you, Nelson. Thank you so much for having me on the show. And thank you so much for having my book there as well.
And it's funny, I keep your book with me, as I've mentioned to you, on the left side of my desk. And so I can always grab it like this, and then I can open it up, and I get these amazing pearls of wisdom. Like, for example, here, I just opened it up, and it says, we need to turn inward and tune into ourselves in order to access our strength and happiness. So I read your book. And I know I've said this before, but I'll say it again. I loved your book so much. I read it in 3 sittings. And you know, I work long hours, Linda. So I see patients all day, and then I come home and I eat dinner, and then it's pretty late already. Although that's changed with the whole event of the coronavirus, we aren't working as late anymore. But I keep it there, and if I'm feeling a little lackluster, a little maybe not grounded like I should be, I open it up and I read something like that. And that's such a perfect quote to me, because it one of the things I've learned over many years is life is always better with gratitude. So you have all of these incredible tips, and you can benefit, Linda, and I'm sure many people have told you this, by reading the book in its entirety, or you can pick it up and read it wherever you are. Tell me about what it was like for you to make your book, The Beautiful Connection, the Currency to Happiness. Just like, what inspired you to write? It's such an insightful, comprehensive book. What inspired you to sit down and write this amazing book?
So all the content, so-called, or the inspiration, is actually from my mom, who's no longer here with us. She passed away in 2004, and I miss her so much that I just wish that my children had met her. So my children have never met her, and I just so wish that when she was here, I wrote her story. I just wish that I did that. I just wish that I wrote her story, because she has amazing stories, but she's no longer here. So I thought I'll try to relay it back, try to write down all the things I learned from her, all the amazing thing that made her such an amazing human, but I couldn't do it because I'm not her. So I could only write down her lessons instead. I only write down, you know, what story she told me that made me still remember and still learn from it. So at first I was just writing it for my children. I've got 2 beautiful children. My son, who is now 15, my daughter is 12, but at the time they were 8 and 10. Well, I wrote it in 2016, so 4 years ago. So 11, at the time he was 11.
Yes.
So initially I wrote it for my children only. So I wrote the first chapter of the first draft copy that was decided for them. But at the end of the first draft, something happened. What happened was that I was in a coaching masterminding group, meaning I was trying to establish my business. I've always coached people my whole life, but I did not know that was called coaching, because in Australia we didn't know that yet. And then finally in 2016, I mean, the industry established, but I just didn't know it myself. 2016, when my children was a little bit older, it was time to reinvent myself. It was just really obvious that I have always been helping people. And at the time, I helped so many parents to enjoy the parenting journey. So I just thought, that's what I do. That's what I am. I'm a life coach. So I went to America to train as a professional life coach. I came back, and at the time I still didn't use Facebook. I was really shy, very private, but I wanted to stay in touch with those friends. So then I got into, you know, the masterminding, all these online learning. And in this group, we have this friend, like all of us, trying to establish our life dreams, you know, our career, reestablish our career. And one friend in the group said, yay, my boss is now finally giving me 2 days off
Right.
so that I can work on my dream job, which is my business, my coaching business. And we were so excited for her. We celebrated for her. I did anyway. That was on Friday, Sydney time at 11
Yes.
o'clock daytime.
Right.
But the same day at midnight, for whatever reason, I still could not remember. I mean, I do check now when it's late because I now have global contacts, but at the time I didn't. But for whatever reason, I just checked on Facebook and her buddy, Kathy, just said, pray for Caroline, she's in hospital.
Wow.
And I never did this before. And I just put emoji praying. And then again, I don't know what happened. At 3 a.m., I checked again, and Kathy said that she's already gone.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, so each
Tragic.
time I retell this story, I still feel so much. So it was absolutely no notice, no whatsoever. And I have not met this friend, but it affected me so much. All the emotions still coming back. It affected me so much that I just could not hold my tears. I was in there crying until about 6 a.m.
Wow.
I have never cried like that before in my life, except when my mother passed away. So I share that in the book. And so the next morning, I signed in my Yahoo email. I saw another news. This beautiful girl, 15-year-old, she looks so model look and intelligent. I cannot remember the story, but all I remember, it was due to cyberbullying. She decided she had enough. And again, I was crying.
Right. So
Then
she took her life.
Yes. Then the very next day, it's still hard for me to say those words.
I understand.
So then the very next day, another case happened. A friend, so I'm in Sydney, another friend in Queensland, another state in Australia. Her son at school, the school friend, who's only 11 years old. And I don't know how, I still can't understand it, how anybody could do that at the age of 11. Again, I was crying. I could not stop crying. So it's almost like suddenly all these 3 stories just like make me realize that I need to share what I know with the world. Otherwise, I feel as if it's like so selfish that I know something that I don't share. I just wish that these people, particularly Caroline, I just wish that she live her dream. I just wish that she, live her dream before she has to go.
Right.
I just keep thinking that, we all had to go someday, but I was blessed. I was fortunate to be able to live all of my dreams. I still don't have my $1 million, right? So my book says, access your happiness right here, right now, with or without $1 million. I never had the $1 million, but I have lived every single dream I had.
Right.
When I was 5, I had a dream of making beautiful dresses because I was born in Vietnam at the end of the wartime, which means I had minimum of everything. All I've seen was black and white TV, black and white photos. I never even seen what a computer looked like. I did not even have color pencils. So somehow at the age of 15, I got teleported over here. Right, so at the age of 5, I wanted to make beautiful dresses because I never really seen beautiful dresses. I only had ever had hand-me-downs because I'm the second last of the 10 kids. So then at the age of 7, it was the first time that I seen color photos. It was the first time that I seen someone with blonde hair and blue eyes. I was like, oh my goodness. Because my sister left.
Out there.
Because my sister left Vietnam then, and she was one of these boat people, refugees. She came to Australia. My cousin went to America, and they sent photos home. I go, oh my goodness, because all my life, all I've seen was black hair.
Yes,
so
sure.
Fascinated me, and that was when I was daydreaming about the world all the time. So that was the second dream. At 7, I wanted to see the world. What is it like? What is America like? What's Australia like? And then at 10, I got inspired to help others to learn because my kinder teacher really scared me. She's like big, tall, with big glasses, shiny red lipstick, shiny belt, shiny shoes, hold a cane. I got so scared. I didn't learn anything. But come to grade three, this beautiful teacher, she was just so kind and made me feel so safe. I thought that's how a teacher's supposed to be. So that's another seed planted in my head.
Right.
So
And
after,
this is in Australia.
no, this is in Vietnam. This is in Vietnam. So I came to
Okay.
Australia. I came to Australia at the age of 15. So these are the seeds I planted in my head when I was doing in
Right.
Vietnam. So at
Oh, got it.
5, I want to make beautiful dresses. At 7, the first time I see color photo, I was wanting to see the world. At 10, I met this beautiful teacher. I got inspired to be a teacher. So those are the 3 early childhood dreams. So at the
Mm.
age of 15, I came without a word of English, not one word, never been
Oh
in a
my
car
goodness.
before.
Wow.
I had extreme motion sickness that I couldn't even get on the bus. So it was a complete shock. It was a complete cultural shock, a complete everything shock. I couldn't speak the language. I had no friends. So it was then that I started to look for my happiness.
Right. Right.
Yes. And also at the
Beautiful.
age of 15 is when it was the first time I saw an art gallery because I didn't even have color pencils before.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I didn't have much of anything, yet I have been so blessed that I lived all my dreams. So I opened a bridal shop. I traveled the world. I've been to Alaska 21 years ago. After I got married, had kids, I started primary teaching. I started volunteering at preschools, teach casually, and now I'm still teaching in different formats, coaching in a book, in talks. Um, 2015, I finally did art. I participated in exhibitions. I won
Right.
awards. In
Wow.
2016, my self-portrait was the Women's Art Prize finalist, and
That's fantastic.
on the theme of equality. So I somehow managed to live all my dreams. And at the time when all of these 3 events happened, I just so wish that these people also feel happiness, because if they feel the happiness,
Right.
even if they had to go, right? We can't stop things from happening. Even if they had to go, I just wish that they lived their happiness, especially with Caroline when she said that I'm
Of
about to
course.
achieve my dream and
Yeah.
she's just taken away like that. And that hit me really badly. And that's when I decided I have to share it with the world. That's why the book is very personal. It begins with my personal journey, me sharing my story, but there's a journey that the reader goes through too. I wonder if you feel that at the beginning, it's just all about me sharing my story. Then it leads you to connect with yourself. And then as we go on, we realize that we need to connect with each other. And then as we go on to the end, one of the last 5 F's, the foundations, the 5
Yes.
foundations of connection, then we realize we need to connect with the universe as well. Well, we're connecting with the universe is all the way along subtly, but one chapter is actually dedicated to all the volunteer workers, the charity workers. The message is that when we're part of the big whole, we feel better. When we're
Right.
all just
Right.
by ourselves, we feel so little and also alone. But when we're part of the universe, we feel much better. So when the
Beautiful.
reader reads, there's a journey that we go through together, but it's very personal. So when people ask me what kind of book it is, I generally say it's a storybook. It's a storybook because I share many people's stories in there to let the reader see different angles, different perspective,
Right.
so that we can, like you said, gratitude before. It helps us. It helps us open our mind, open our perspective a bit to see the better light to things. Yeah.
It's so powerful. And I think, Linda, I think one of the reasons your book is so powerful is it's deeply touching because it's real. Everything in your book is based on something that really happened. And of course,
Yes.
in many cases, it's about you, it's about your family, it's about your mother. Let's take a moment, Linda. I want to explore this with you because many people right now, I don't know what it's like in Australia, but I'd love for you to share that in a moment. Here in the United States, what's very difficult is people are getting cagey. They've been in isolation now. I have patients who are coming in who've been in isolation for more than 6 weeks. And the
Yes.
only
Yes.
time they've gotten out, Linda, is not even to fill gas. Most people said, "Are you kidding me? I haven't needed to fill gas. I've gone to the grocery store one time per week. I haven't seen any of my friends, and I now I'm in your office. This is like the second place other than the grocery store I've been in the better part of 2 months. So let's talk a little bit and explore the power of your book and how people can kind of get reinvigorated to create in their lives. I want to talk about the 5 F's and how the 5 F's that you talk about in your book can help people get a sense of reconnection so they can, when it feels right. I know in Georgia, I, our governor may have been the first governor to open up the state in part, not in full, and he's gradually opening it up as time goes on. And I think by maybe tomorrow or next week, most of the state will be open again. How do the 5 F's help people who have been in isolation as a result of anything, but particularly during this current time where people are dealing with the COVID-19 virus? How does it bring them back into the world? How does it make them feel more connected?
Thank you for asking the amazing questions. Yes, first of all, before I go into the 5 F's, just to share a bit about in Australia, like you asked earlier. So we're similar, we're still in lockdown, and a lot of people are also stay home. So very similar in that sense. So we are in lockdown. I haven't been out much either. In terms of the 5 F's, so there's 5 F. The number one is family.
Right?
F for family, and F for friends, finance, fitness, and fidelity.
Fidelity. Yeah.
These 5 so-called pillars to lead to connections, it was actually formed at the age of 15 in the school ground.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's incredible.
Yes. So like I said, I came to Australia. Suddenly I have no friends. I couldn't speak the language. And so one day I was just really asking myself, because obviously I wasn't happy. I was looking for my happiness. So I just looked down to my hand. What do I need? What do I need to be happy? Because
Yes.
I'm in a new country. I'm all lost. I don't have friends. I don't have anything. I can't even speak. Well, by then I spoke a little bit, I think. Yeah, I spoke a little bit. So I looked down my palm. What do I want? What do I need? It was like my palm, because I look at my palm.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
You can't lose any fingers. You need all 5, and that's how
You
I
need all 5.
form. And that's how I form the 5 F's. So number one is family, right? How do we access happiness from family? I think, once upon a time, sometimes I feel like I've come from the dinosaur age, kind of,
Right.
because
Right.
because I was in Vietnam. We didn't have color TV, we didn't have telephone, everything was really basic. So
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
then, it's everything about us, you and me, about feeling and connection. How do we relate to each other? We didn't have all these gadgets, we didn't have all these platforms as such. This is wonderful now that I can connect with you like this. But
Yes.
I was thinking back then, like, what do I miss back home? What do I need to make me happy, to help me find my happiness? And at the time, I didn't have friends. I couldn't speak the language, but I had my family. So luckily, my parents came with me. So my sister, unfortunately, was the refugee, come on a boat, but she sponsored us. So I came
Oh,
as an
fantastic.
immigrant. Yeah, so I
Right.
was lucky. I
Right.
came as an immigrant with my parents and my other siblings. So it was evidenced at the time that even I had nothing, I had my family. My family was my security blanket. So that was one factor that I
Right.
realized that we must have our family to
And
help
Linda,
us.
forgive me for interrupting you. Family to you isn't just your core family. To you, your family, for example, you have the family of all the people, the ambassadors and all the people who follow you. So family to you is anybody that you have a deep, profound connection perhaps with, that you share your life with and you
That's
create with.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
Because I share in the book that once upon a time, family is just your biological family. But
Right.
nowadays we have adopted family, we have step family. I have to recreate my family all the way along, because when I came here, like I said, I didn't have friends. So at school, I created my circle of friends, where it's a family outside of my family. And then after I get married, I moved numerous times. And each time I move, I don't have my family there. And like the latest time, which is here, we moved here in the north of Sydney. When we go to school, the school say, who can I call as an emergency contact when we can't
Right.
find you? And
Right.
I'm like, I got no sister, no brother here. So I
Oh,
continuously had to create my family outside of my family. So yes, you're absolutely right. Now that, you know, I have the nonprofit Three Hearts. Three Heart is the global family that I'm trying to create.
create. That's so
Yes.
beautiful. I love your story so much. So let's
So
talk about this. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Linda. I
that's
interrupted you.
okay. So sorry, I took a bit too long to answer your question. So the 5 F's was the 5 pillars for connection. And the question was that how do we help people connect? How do we help people find
Right.
happiness during this time?
Time.
Is that, you know, before this pandemic, everyone's just very busy, right? We are very, very busy at work.
Yes.
And now this situation has allowed us to stay home more, to connect with our family more. So that is already showing it itself. And that's what I share in the book, is that if you connect with your family, whether it's your biological family or any circle of connection that you have that have a
Yeah.
deep
Right.
bond with, you can access your happiness there rather than going along feeling so lonely. And that's why we created Three Hearts, to extend the connection, to share love and connection, joy, positivity, and happiness. So that's family. And with
Right.
friends, again, you know, we're also busy these days. You know, it's not like once upon a time in the 70s, 80s, you can just call up a friends and chat for hours.
I was.
but
Yes. Yes.
but these days, everyone gets so busy. And so in the friend chapter, I also share about being authentic, you know, building authentic friendships, because that's what makes friendships meaningful, rather than we pretend who we think we have to be. So that's
Yes.
the friends. And then with the finance, we all know that, you know, life is quite practical. We do need to have money, finance, in order to support ourselves. And so in there, I talk about different ways, you know, different ideas, you know, for people to access in case they need to. So that's the finance. Um, there's a lot of different elements, you know, about work, about business, dealing, that kind of thing. There's a lot of details in there, but that's the finance. Because if we are able to have stability in finance, it helps us naturally, but it's not all about that. It's not all
Right.
about that, because that's the external layer and there's the internal layers as well. So that's the finance. Internal layers of happiness, external layers and internal layers of happiness. And that's the crucial part. And then we have the fitness. We all know that, you know, if you stay healthy, fit and well, it helps. It helps you to stay positive. But even if those people who are unfortunately don't have the physical fitness, the most important part is our mental health, our mental fitness. So I talk about that in there. But when I say mental fitness, I didn't mean about mental health, unwell kind of thing. I was trying to share with people how to think in a pattern of upward
Right.
spiral rather
Yes.
than a downward spiral. So I don't really mean mental health, but I was trying to articulate how to think so that we can access more joy, more happiness, rather than staying in a worry mode, which is very much this current climate, isn't it?
Yes.
Everyone's in
Yes,
fear,
it is.
in worry. Yeah, so in there I share how we can think simply so that we can lead ourselves in an upward spiral in terms of positivity. So the book is everything about positivity, how to make things work when things don't work. And while it is inspired by my mom, her teaching, but the stories is not all about our story. There's many stories from different people in my life that I witnessed that I
Right.
wanted to use to share, to articulate a different perspective so that we can all be reminded, look at that situation. You know, if they can make it, surely I can make it too, that kind of
Yeah. Right.
message.
Right.
And then the last F is fidelity. Now, fidelity, I found a new meaning myself. it is not about a couple's fidelity, and I'll keep that as a surprise for the readers to read themselves.
Perfect.
Because
Linda,
otherwise I'll go into crying again.
okay, I
last
understand.
time last time I did an interview, I talked about that chapter, and then I started pouring tears.
Crying. Oh no, and that's fine too. It's particularly an emotional time. But Linda, I want to pause for a second
Yeah.
because I want to address your point of finance, and I want to do this because there are people in the world right now who are doing magnificent things, and I just want to take a moment to recognize three people that I know and love very, very deeply. These are gentlemen, because finance can be different things, right? And one of the things that's happening right now is there are people, probably in your country as well. Here in the United States, we have people who were released immediately from their job. They didn't get any unemployment. They live paycheck to paycheck because they don't make a lot of money. So it's very important for them to work. It's very important for them to receive a paycheck. And I have three gentlemen, and I'm going to mention them right now because they're so humble and they're so kind and they're so generous that no one would ever know that this is happening. But I have a friend, Chuck Spiros. Chuck, I hope you hear this interview. My very dear friend, Steve Roseboom, and my very dear friend, John Loth. All of these men are very successful businessmen. Here's what they have done. They said to me in private, and I hope they're not angry at me, but I want people to know they're noble men and women in the world. Here's what they did. They said to me, Nelson, I'm not taking a paycheck. I am using the money that I normally make to continue paying my employees because I know that they don't make a great deal of money. And I know that if I don't pay them, they will have no money to feed their families, to keep their homes, to pay for their automobiles. So these three incredibly kind, loving, generous, brilliant, successful men, all these weeks have been paying their employees their full rate, even if many of them did not work. And so finance, with regard to what you're referring to, isn't necessarily the point I want to make about your personal finance per se. It's about helping other people financially be solvent. And I hope that they listen to this because I want these kinds of extraordinary, in this case, these are three men. I know they're lovely, wonderful women out there too. And certainly if you want to share anything about that, you can. But I was speechless when I spoke to all of them because I know it was a hardship. Some of them have big companies and they were paying out of their own pocket while not making any money at all in many cases, or very little money, or much less money, so that the people that they took care of, Chuck Spiros, for example, not only was taking care of his 100 or so employees and paying them their full salary, he was also feeding three families whose husbands had lost their jobs and were not capable during this time because they couldn't go out to find another job. And so he was handling over 100 people that he and his partners, and I'm so sorry, I don't know their names, were sponsoring so that they could continue putting food on their table. So I just wanted to throw that out because that kind of, we talked about gratitude a moment ago. I opened up a show with one of your quotes. That type of generosity, that kind of gratitude helps a person lead a very blessed, remarkable life, a magical life. You and I have magical lives. We have magic show up in our lives every day. So I just wanted to take the time and certainly please, Linda, feel free in this interview if there are any notables that you want to mention, any people that just really stepped out to be larger than life during this critical time.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing that. I really, really appreciate it. So I did share in the book that, when we do business, it's not just about a transaction. It's not
Yes.
just about the business itself. So I talk about connection in business as well, the authentic connection, how we need to think of the other person like a friend. We need to think of the benefit for them as well. And so it's so perfect fit. So thank you so much for sharing that. In terms of mentioning notable people, there is so many people, Nelson. Really, I think this situation has bring out a lot of amazing people. All of a sudden, I could not think of all the names, but close to my heart, of course, it's all of my ambassadors, all my ambassadors around
Right.
the world who step in and step up to just simply host the meetings, to
Yeah.
hold a
Yeah.
space for everyone to connect so that people don't feel so lonely and isolated. I just really think that, you know, whatever we do, never underestimate
Yeah.
for doing what we do, because we
Right.
really never know who we have helped by
I have
just
a
doing
saying.
our bits, by
Yeah,
just
the
doing the
best.
part that we can do. Yes.
I have a saying that everything I do has power, magic, and meaning. Meaning
Yes.
that as you begin to live your life as a more conscious individual, everything you do has the ability to make big changes in the world. And it's so funny because I've trained a lot of people, as you know, at a state, national, and world level with regard to strength training. And it's always remarkable to me how much, and I never charged anybody, by the way, how much it returns to you. Most of the young men and women I trained, and I'm not saying if I ever train people again that all the people I train have to become doctors, but
Yes.
most of them have gotten doctoral degrees in some field, whether it be medicine, whether it be PhDs in biochemistry, whether it be in physical therapy. These incredibly talented young people, because you and I really strive to impress upon people to educate themselves so that they can make the brilliant changes in their own lives, the lives of their families, the lives of their communities, and the lives of the world. And one of the things I so love about you is you're a person I think about so often, because your whole life is about having people have the lives that they want and have those lives be miraculous. And I want to speak to, and you know, I'm one of your ambassadors. If I had a wine glass right now, I would hold it up. I have tea. I'm going to toast to you and all the ambassadors that carry your brilliant, profound work as volunteers. There you go. There you go. Three hearts. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. That carry the love, the joy, the wisdom, and the opportunity, the possibilities of changing the world one heart at a time. And so, to all of your ambassadors, to all of the people you touch in the world, cheers to all of you. May you continue blessing the world with your wisdom, with your generosity, with your gratitude, and your focused, committed direction. Let's take a sip on that, shall we? I can't do that on my show, Linda, because on my show, we're on TV, we're on radio, and podcasting. So, you know, they always instruct us when you're on TV, when you're on radio, you can't have any dead time. But cheers to all of you amazing souls who are out there, regardless of whether there's a pandemic. And I don't mean, you know, breaking social distance boundaries, but I mean just always doing good things. Those are the people that I so applaud, because Linda, you have four groups of people the way I see it going through this. You have people who unfortunately and sadly are in tremendous fear. They're paralyzed, they can't act, and some of those are starting to come out of that now. You have people that say, I'm overworked, I'm overstressed, I'm going to take a staycation until they call me back to work. And I get it. You know, most people are stressed. Most people need some time. If you need some time, catch up. Then you have the people who are charging $7.50 for a roll of toilet paper or a pair of latex gloves. Scoundrels, I call them. People that do whatever they can to take advantage of a bad situation. Not good. And then you have the incredible people like you, your ambassadors, others. You know, they spoke about Steve Roseboom, John Loth, Chuck Spiros, who nobody even knows about. They're just out in the world helping as many people as they can because it's the right thing to do.
And
So,
you're one of the ambassadors. I want to say thank you for that. And I also
no,
want to
you're
say
so welcome.
thank you for doing this shout out to all these amazing people. So thank you for that as well.
You know, it's funny. I'm a healer. I'm a doctor. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm a friend. I have grown up most of my life. My parents were like yours. My parents they're no longer alive, unfortunately. I lost my mother several months ago. But they said to me over and over when I was growing up, Linda, and this is so important for people to hear. They used to say to me, son, please, anywhere you go, make a difference. Make a favorable difference. They used to say, I don't care if you just go into the bathroom and wipe the counter off. I don't care if you just replace the roll of toilet paper so the next person doesn't need to look for, you know, where it is when they need it. Wherever you go, and you embody this, you're the epitome of this. Everywhere you go, everything you do, your entire life, and this is why you're so dear to me, is about making the world a better place. That's why I told you when I met you, if I can ever help you with anything, I'll always do the very best that I can, because you're a
Thank
treasure
you.
to me. And we need
Thank you.
many, 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 many more people. And you can cry if you want to, that's completely fine. But to take this on, particularly during this time, because this is a critical time, Linda, and I just want to
Yeah.
speak for just a second about this. This is a time where people are reevaluating their lives. You know, this pandemic, and I'm not being doubtful, I'm not being morose, but this is going to be here, and it will probably go in waves, and it could even be a seasonal thing that we periodically have to re-engage in specific ways to limit the infectiousness of this pandemic. And so it's important that we look at ourselves. And one of the primary reasons I'm doing this interview with you is because I want people to know that you get to choose who you are during these critical times. Are you going to be somebody who's paralyzed in fear, and you're not going to do anything in the world to make the world a better place? Are you going to choose to do things in the world that make the world, even if it's something small for somebody? You never know. You never know, Linda, how doing something small can create ripples. Like I said, most of the young people that I trained, seriously, were not only highly accomplished people that became state, national, and world champions. These are people who are creating tremendous change in the world, who I follow every day, whether it be on Facebook, whether they're in communication with me daily, weekly, monthly. I know where all of them are. I know what they're doing in the world, and I get nothing but praise from the people who interact with them, because their greater commitment in the world is to leave a trail of love, generosity, prosperity, growth, and opportunity for all the people around them. And I just want everyone to hear that.
So thank you so much for expressing that and sharing all of that so deep and so profoundly. So there's actually two things that I like to share, if that's okay.
Of
So
course,
number
please.
one, it's really, really all about connection. When we feel connected with ourselves, we feel connected with others. And when that happens, it's really hard to treat others unwell. So that's why connection is everything. When we say connection, it's not just about connecting with other people, but most importantly, most fundamentally, is connecting with ourselves first. When we can connect with ourselves, that's when we can lead ourselves better. And that's
Yeah,
when your parents teach you what you teach. And so I call that self-leadership. And
beautiful.
that's what my expertise area is. I have helped people from all walks of life. The youngest is 5 years old, the oldest is beyond 70. Because I'm not about a system or sales or any particular technique that only fit
Right,
one group of people. I'm all about you, heart, mind, and body. I'm all about you, your connection, your happiness. And so therefore, my area is self-leadership. So when we have a deep connection with ourselves, it is really natural. It is very natural to be able to do what you're hoping everyone does, is to
right,
be more considerate for other people. So that's one thing. So sometimes it's difficult for people who are going through a journey in life and they're not yet so deeply connecting to themselves. And that leads me to point number two. The point number two is that when we see that there are people who are doing amazing things, so kind, there are people who are not doing so, and there are different people in between, it is all because of their life journey.
yes,
Their life journey haven't been able to allow them yet. It is whether before they had suffered, so then therefore they feel the need to protect themselves first. And so therefore their mind is too busy. They don't have space to think for others because there
right.
is a disconnectedness.
Connect. Yes,
They are still in their past self, where they're still going through their life turmoils, whatever need they had. They needed to meet that need first. And so then they need to do whatever they need to do, because truly, I really think everybody's got different stories, right?
right,
Well, some people would think that, even if I got nothing to eat, like the amazing hero that you just mentioned, even if I haven't got anything, I still feel that I could give. Right. So it's like now I pretty much park the coaching business aside pretty much, but to focus on Three Hearts, right? But not everybody's able to do that because it doesn't mean that I have a lot of money. What I'm saying is that we're talking about the emotions, the connection. Some people might not have anything, but they still could say, look, you're the same as me. We both are still human. You need it as much as I do. So I'm happy to share. I'm okay to share. Or in some cases, you'll see people that sacrifice themselves to go and rescue other people. And that's
Right.
because the deep, profound connectedness that they have. And it's not just with themselves, but they've gone so deep, so amazingly powerful that they have the connection for other people. And that's why I lead people to feel the connection with the universe. Our most powerful power, unlimited power, is compassion. If you could access your compassion, you will continuously grow. You will grow each day
Beautiful.
bigger and bigger, not necessarily physical size, but in your heart, in your emotional capacity, in your
Capacity.
mental
Yes.
capacity, in your spiritual capacity. You will continue to grow if you could embrace compassion. If you embrace compassion as the power, it will be limitless. You will forever grow and grow. It will be limitless, and you will not feel challenged or weak or at any point. You will
Right.
always be able to access higher level of power, higher level of confidence, and higher level of strength. But for the people who have not been able to do that, and I noticed that you mentioned the word consciousness.
Yes.
Consciousness, it's easy to say for the people who have experienced it and understand it and comprehend it. For people who haven't been on the journey, it's really difficult for them to understand that word. What does it mean?
Yes. It's
It,
elusive for sure.
and so for them, it's a journey of life that they have to go through. They are not yet there. Whatever the situation was, whatever the circumstances were, however they came to this life, however their journey had brought them up to where they are, had caused them to do what they do. And so again, I have a lot of compassion and understanding for those people, even though we don't like it, even though the gesture, the mannerism is not good, but I kind of still have the compassion to understand that because they haven't gone through that journey in order to do what we're
Yes.
hoping them to do. And
Right.
this takes me to share the deepest reason for Three Hearts. Now, I have not ever shared this before publicly. I might have shared it with one or two ambassadors when the conversation came up, but I've never shared it publicly
Please
because
do.
it might sound a little bit too big or out of context because people don't know the background of Three Hearts yet. With Three Hearts, it's just really simple. We just hold a space for authentic connection. We hold a space for us to all share our highlights, our lowlights, our challenges. Why is it important? Because when we get to hear ourselves, when we get to articulate and express ourselves, it validates what we're going through. It validates that my low light, however small it is still real. So I
Yes.
get to be
Yes.
heard. It gets to be validated.
Right.
My challenges, regardless of how small it still is a challenge to me. So it gets validated. My highlights, regardless of how small my win is, it could just be the littlest thing that I could walk out to the shop today, right? It's no big deal, but it is big in a pandemic. When we
Yes.
get to celebrate our win, we get lifted, we get confirmation, we get affirmation, we get to celebrate our tiniest win. It matters to us that we made that effort or
Right.
finally something happened because I tried so hard. It might mean nothing to somebody else, but it means a lot to me, right?
To you. Sure.
When we are able to acknowledge our feelings as we go, first of all, if it's negative feelings, you don't get to pile up all the emotions and one day you just boom, say, I can't do it anymore. And that's when we need to go and see psychologists, we need to go and see a
Right.
whole pile of layers of mental health progression, but downward progression, a negative progression. But more so, this is a part that I said I haven't shared before. the highlight doesn't matter how small it is or how big it is. When it's big, sometimes you can't just go and tell a friend because you worry that they think that you are boasting or showing off, right? Or not in the
Right.
right moment. I'm going through a
Right.
pandemic. You can't tell me you're happy and excited. It's not in the right time, right place. But when we host the meeting, we are all allowed to do that. So we're giving each other the permission to do that. Now, not only that, when children, young children grow up, when they have the highlight or achieve something, they don't get acknowledged. The teacher didn't acknowledge, the parents didn't acknowledge. So I try so hard. I've got a C. I can't get A yet, but I get a C, but it hasn't been acknowledged. It's not good enough for somebody else. I try, I get a B, still haven't got acknowledged because it's not an A, it's not a trophy. Right.
Right.
And so you go through about life, you keep trying, and no one's acknowledging. And that's why one day, you know, whatever it is, this is just like a very abstract talk, right? Then one day, someone decided, look, I'm going to show you my power now, right? I'm going to get a gun now and show you my power.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? This is really abstract
Yes.
talking, but
No, I
you get what
it.
I mean, right?
Yes.
So I
Oh my
don't
God,
want,
yes.
I don't want my children, your children, our grandchildren to grow up with mass shooting, with terrorism. All of those behavior is just because no one hear me, no one hear me. I've done this, I've done that. It's still not good enough. I'm still not important. I'm not significant. Boom, this is what I'm going to do now to let the world know how big, how powerful I am. Those
Right.
are the very simplified way of me explaining that. That's
Yeah.
how my
And you're right.
observation. So with these meetings, even though it's very casual, it's very fun, we just play 3 games, but behind it all is all the psychological benefits, and that's why it's been really impactful. We have people come to the first meeting, realize their dream, realize what their dream really is.
Yeah.
And so when we're able to truly share what matters to us, you know, I use this story a little bit often because I think it articulated quite well. Imagine you are a retired grandparents, retired, right? You don't go to work, but you love gardening. You pour all your effort and hours and sweat in the garden, you know, look after the soil, excuse me. And some plants take a long time to grow. Some flowers, like the orchid, take months before
Months.
it blooms, excuse me.
Right.
And when they finally bloom, that's really exciting. You know, that's their win. That's their achievement. But
Yes.
if they tell a businessman or somebody, whoever that is not, have no knowledge, no interest in gardening, it doesn't make sense to them. What's the big deal? It's just a flower.
Flower.
But if they get to celebrate with us, my orchid bloomed, you know, my rose came out, and we all celebrate with them. It's such a joy. It's such a joy, and it just elevates us. And that's
Yeah.
what we
Life becomes
need.
a celebration. Yeah.
Yes,
It's so
we need
true.
to have the little celebrations that we go. Otherwise, life is too hard. Life
You
is
know.
difficult enough as it is.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's too hard to just, you know, focus on the negative or the must do's and the bills and the stuff. So what 3 Hearts does is that if you have a low light, it helps you to clear away the negative emotions, to detach and let it go so that it doesn't get built up. You know, if you have a low light and a challenge, you get to clear it so that you have a lighter head and a lighter heart. If you have highlights, we celebrate so that it elevates you. It confirms your wins, your journey of life. And your life is worth celebrating. That's the behind message, is that whatever you do is worth celebrating. And we're here to celebrate with you. And that's
Beautiful.
why these games has been very impactful, that at the end of it, we all feel refreshed, recharged, and rejuvenated. And it's a proactive way of life. You know, instead of wait until we have problem and go and see the doctor, we are now playing this game, making time for ourselves to connect with each other, but more so we connect with ourselves without even realizing it. You don't realize it, do
Yes.
you, when you play the game?
Exactly.
You
Yes.
think that you're
Right.
just sitting there to connect with other people, but when you walk away, you realize that all these games are designed for you to connect with yourself. Say, for example, pick a word to show how you feel now and share with us why. Audiences, if you're listening, pick a word to show how you feel now and share with us why in the comments. See, we go about life so busy. We're so busy, one task after another. If you're a parent, you come home from work, you still need to cook dinner, you still need to do homework with the kids. You have no time to think, how am I feeling today? What
Right,
exactly
right.
am I feeling today?
Yeah,
Right? So we host this meeting to remind people to make time for yourself to come and play. Because life is so hard, right? People believe life's got to be hard.
beautiful,
Why don't
beautiful.
we inject a bit of fun? Why don't we inject a bit of joy? And when someone tells me, oh, I'm too busy, I don't have time for games, I agree. I agree, time's so busy. But here's a choice. You can keep going on busy, and then you go kaboom. I need to go and
Yeah,
see a doctor now, a psychologist
right.
or a counselor or coach now. Then you have to invest money. Then you have to invest time, but for the negative effect of it. So
Yes,
why not make time now to come and have fun and have joy and avoid the pain, avoid the suffering, and avoid the medical bills or the whatever bills it
beautiful,
is. So
beautiful.
with
Absolutely,
three
Linda.
hearts games, imagine that we do this over days, years, months, years, over a number of years, many years, over generations. I'm
Right,
not silly. I don't expect it overnight. Nothing comes overnight.
of
But
course.
over decades, we really have the power to change the trajectory of mental health because of the proactive way of living,
Yeah,
because of the
so true.
fun, joy, acknowledgement. Acknowledgement is powerful. Acknowledging your highs, your lows, your challenges, and have fun while doing it.
Right,
Because
absolutely.
there's three games, right? Game number one, there's one question. And game number two has three questions. Number two is the one that shares your highlight, your low light, and your challenge. Game number three is also has one question. Now, number one and number three game, we change every single time, or we recycle the game, but you still feel fresh, right?
Right.
Number two is the one that always stays the same because you will always have a highlight every day, every week, every month. You will always have a low light or a challenge. And that's what I teach in the book, so that doesn't change. But here's the thing, with game number one and number three change all the time, you get freshness, you get
Yes.
surprises,
Right,
because
right.
each time you come to the meeting, you have no idea what the question's going to be. No one knows except the host. And even the host, sometimes they don't even know before they turn up because I give it to them very late. And
Sure,
including
sure.
myself, even myself, I might have picked the games for that day, but then I forget about it. And I'll just turn up to a meeting, and then all of us, including myself, we all bring the emotions that it's all authentic. We don't know what emotions we're going to bring. And that's why there's freshness. That's why element of surprise. And that's why it's great. It's fun because we go through about life, very routinely. And when you have a bit of freshness, a bit of surprise, it makes it more fun in life. And that's what we
Yeah,
need, the surprise, the joy, the fun, all of those, all of those. So
no doubt.
it's very, very simple game, very fun to play. But having said that, because we all bring different kinds of emotions, sometimes we do cry together. And sometimes we laugh so much together. There was one time I almost fell off my chair from laughing. And there's one time I cried so much. You know me, I cry easily.
Right, right. Well, you feel things very deeply, Linda.
I do, I
What I love
do.
about this is that when we get crazy busy, and I'm guilty of this too. However,
Mm,
one of the things that you really triggered in me is never to forget to do things like what you're describing to reconnect with yourself.
that's
It's
right.
so
Yeah,
easy to disconnect from people. And I know we just have a couple more minutes. I want to say a couple important things. It's so valuable to connect with yourself every day, because if you're not connected to yourself, how do you connect to other people? You're lost.
yeah.
And I want to make a mention. I talked about the tremendous generosity of the three gentlemen that I'm very dearly acquainted with. What's important is not everybody can afford to do what they do. They did what they did because obviously they could do what they did. But what you can do every day, I don't care how wealthy you are financially, how poor you are financially, you can do things to stay connected with yourself. And that's what Three Hearts is really about. The first heart is all about being connected to yourself. The second heart is all about being connected to others. And then the third heart is is you being connected to the whatever you consider God, the universe, nature. And so by reflecting continually on these, by participating in this way, you're connected to yourself, you're connected to others, you're connected to source. And this allows you to lead a very different life than if you're somebody who unconsciously, unwittingly goes through life not connected to yourself or not connected to anything bigger, more resourceful, more organized, more self-fulfilling, more generous. And you end up this, you're right, you end up this person who ends up shooting people, or you just end up incredibly depressed or frustrated or angry, never achieving your goals, never living a life that is fulfilling. And so I want to give people the opportunity to connect with you as we close out the show. How do people do that, Linda? How do people connect with, how can they get your amazing book? How can they connect to your three hearts? How can they possibly look at being an ambassador in your program?
Sure, thank you for asking that. So
And we got
first
about
of
2 minutes,
all,
Linda, just so you
sure,
know, before our timer runs out, so to speak.
sure. So just email me, Linda at Linda Duong, Linda Linda, Duong Duong, Linda at lindaduong.com.au. Just look me up. You'll find me. We have a Facebook group. It's called Three Hearts Connections Global. So that's the group that you can join. The book is on Amazon in 13 countries. It's in Walmart, in Barnes & Noble's site, in Indies, in so many sites, in Fish Pond, in psychological reference, in holistic medicines. Just look for it. Connection, the currency to happiness, you'll find it. I'm on Facebook a lot. Yeah, so do get in touch. If you like to be an ambassador, it's very easy. All you need to be is to have a desire to connect with people and to have a genuine, kindness to people. That's all it is. That's all it is that you need. And yeah, thank you so much for this
You're
interview.
so
It's been
welcome.
so lovely to talk to you.
Thank you for watching this show. Linda, I love you so much. You're such an inspiration to so many people. You're such a gift to humanity. Your entire life is an expression of helping people achieve their goals, to find happiness, and to be healthy and strong. And I so appreciate you. Folks, you'll catch me again soon. I am Dr. Nelson Bulmash. I am the host of Health Matters. It has been a delight to have you, Linda. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.